Hi, I'm Lindsay Konzak, editor of Modern Distribution Management, and I'm talking today with Reed Anderson, director and head of Houlihan Lokey's distribution practices. He advises on mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, financings, growth capital, and restructuring. Welcome, Reed.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's great to be with you.
So MDM recently published an article from Reed based on his experience soliciting bids for a wholesale distribution company that was interested in selling. He received vastly different valuations from potential buyers who had received the exact same information. So I'm going to talk with Reed today about why this is, why buyers have wildly differing perspectives on how much a business is worth, and what the implications are for both buyers and sellers. So Reed, first, tell us what you do and about your experience in the wholesale distribution industry.
Sure. So I head up the distribution company advisory practice at Houlihan Lokey. And for those unaware, our firm is an international investment bank with expertise in mergers and acquisitions, capital markets, restructuring, and valuation, as you had mentioned. We're a large firm. We're the most active in U.S. transactions, under $1 billion for the last several years. And globally, we're the number one restructuring advisor and fairness opinion provider over the past 10 years, according to Thomson Reuters. We've been advising clients for more than 40 years and now have 14 offices and over 850 employees in the United States, Europe, and Asia. My role is predominantly advising distributors on M&A and financings, that's growth capital and debt financings. And I work with distributors across a wide variety of end markets, be they industrial, safety, building products, electronics, you imagine it, seen it.
Excellent. Thank you for that overview. So, in the article that we published in our September 25th issue of MDM Premium, you wrote that selling a business is not like selling a house. Why not?
You know, there are quite a few differences. It's a much more complex event. First off, to oversimplify, you don't hang a for sale sign and wait for somebody to show up as a buyer. In an M&A transaction, finding the right buyer when you're on the sell side is absolutely critical. And whether that's a strategic buyer or a financial buyer, which is otherwise known as a private equity group, it's important to position the business appropriately to those buyers. Each buyer is going to have a different rationale and different value drivers, and you need to understand what those value drivers are to maximize price. You don't post the price like you would when you're selling a house. You want to see what the business is worth to somebody else, and it can vary wildly. So you don't want to set a price that may be the full price for one person that's less than another would be willing to pay. You know, also, unlike selling a house, confidentiality is critical. You want to make sure that you're managing your customer relationships, your supplier relationships, competitive risk out there, and employees as effectively as you can. So keeping confidentiality on a process is important. You don't want people to jump to the wrong conclusions and cause damage to the business. So confidentiality is critical. And then when you're selling a business and talking to multiple parties, which we typically advise you should, so that you know you're getting the best possible price and terms and certainty, you need to keep a very tightly orchestrated process, and having somebody that can help shepherd that process and make sure that it doesn't extend. Time is always the enemy of the seller. You want to move as quickly as you can because you bear all the risk. So that's really of critical importance. And then I think really as a second step, you know, there are many moving pieces here. Price is just one component. So you really have to weigh a number of different considerations. Certainty. Can a buyer get a deal done? What are the risks with a certain buyer? How do you vet and assess their ability to get a deal done? What are the risks generally to getting a deal done? Are there certain things within your company that are going to cause a buyer to be concerned that you should think about proactively and position proactively in advance? And those are really, as they relate specifically to getting a transaction done, but other considerations that you have when selling a business, unlike selling a house, is what does the buyer bring post-transaction? When you're selling a house, you want to sell the house and you walk away from it. But a lot of folks have different concepts for what they'd like to see post-transaction. In many cases, the owner of the business or the management team are staying, so they're looking for somebody that can help accelerate growth. Is succession planning important? Are there legacy issues for family members, employees, or company identity that you want to be considerate of? And then lastly, Is a partnership with a buyer important? Whether it's a strategic or a financial player, are you looking for certain things out of the buyer? All of those add to the complexity of selling a business and finding the appropriate buyer.